Today I want to talk about 10 Victorian dramas most people totally overlook, and I'm starting with a royal scandal so explosive it nearly ruined Queen Victoria. Next up, a BBC miniseries that takes you from the slums to the mansions of Dickens's London, and a true story about a doctor who accidentally invents the vibrator right in the middle of Victorian proper society. All of it's here, and none of it's your standard Jane Austen. Let's get into it. Queen Victoria rules the most powerful empire on earth, but after Prince Albert dies, she collapses into grief. The whole country watches as their monarch pulls back from public life until a plain-spoken Scottish servant, John Brown, steps in. He cuts through the palace formality, becomes her confidant, and in the process shakes up Victorian society at every level. Brown's blunt style and the liberties he takes spark a scandal that rolls through the entire country. Newspapers run wild, and suddenly, everyone from politicians to servants whispers about the Queen's reputation. At its core, this is a love story, but not the kind Hollywood usually tells. This is about two strong-willed people who save each other. Nothing romantic or sexual, just the kind of loyalty and challenge that holds someone together when everything falls apart. Dame Judi Dench puts in an astonishing performance as Victoria, so strong it gets her an Oscar nomination and, by her own admission, launches her film career even though she's already in her 60s. The film started out as a TV movie, but Harvey Weinstein saw it and decided it deserved a theatrical release. The story goes deep into the burdens of power, the codes of the Victorian era, the pain of losing a loved one, and the real blessing of friendship. From the riverbanks of Victorian London, Dickens spins out a world where the poor and the rich constantly brush up against each other. Lizzie Hexam and her father scrape out a living pulling bodies out of the Thames. One day they find a body that connects their small life to the wealthy Wilfer family, dragging both sides into a tangled story about money, class, and love. This BBC miniseries brings Dickens's darkest, but also his most romantic novel to life. The heir to a garbage fortune turns up dead. Now his father's manager, Naughty Boffin, inherits the money, and London society starts to scramble. Suspicion falls on the man who hauls the body from the river, and his daughter Lizzie finds herself the focus of both an idle gentleman and a dangerously obsessed schoolteacher. Meanwhile, the dead heir's fiancé enters high society, tempted by wealth and a mysterious stranger. Every detail, the authentic script, the haunting music, the production design, grounds you in Victorian London. The series wraps up every thread by the end, but the journey there is rich, suspenseful, and packed with unforgettable characters. Sometimes real life is stranger than fiction. In the late Victorian era, a young doctor in England sets out to cure hysteria, a catch-all diagnosis for everything men don't understand about women, and accidentally invents the world's first electromechanical vibrator. Hysteria turns this true story into a fast, witty comedy that plays out right under the noses of Victorian respectability. Hugh Dancy stars as Mortimer Granville, an ambitious doctor obsessed with treating women's ailments. His work, especially his pelvic massage therapy, raises eyebrows everywhere, but also leads to a genuinely historic and very awkward breakthrough. Director Tanya Wexler keeps things light, fast, and funny. The cast is clearly having fun. Dancy, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Felicity Jones, and Jonathan Pryce all play off each other with sharp timing. The setting is perfectly realized, down to every detail, and the film never loses sight of the ridiculousness of its own premise. What could turn into a raunchy joke stays clever, character-driven, and grounded in its time. In late 19th century England, Jude Fawley dreams of leaving his blue-collar life behind and joining the intellectuals at university. Instead, he works as a stonemason, locked in an unhappy marriage to Arabella, a farmer's daughter who tricks him into marrying her. When she leaves, Jude heads to the city, hoping for something better. There he meets Sue, his cousin, and what follows is an affair that walks straight into tragedy. Jude adapts Thomas Hardy's last and bleakest novel, Jude the Obscure, sticking close to Hardy's dark vision. Christopher Eccleston gives Jude both hope and heartbreak, while Kate Winslet as Sue is magnetic, one of her best early performances. It's a hard movie, and no film can really capture everything from Hardy's novel, but this comes close in spirit. The result is one of the most powerful tragedies in Victorian fiction, made for the screen with just enough hope to keep you going and just enough heartbreak to stick with you. Behind the walls of the Audley estate, nobody sleeps easy. Lady Audley, married to a much older aristocrat, has secrets she keeps locked away, even from herself. When her husband's nephew Robert starts to suspect her of being involved in the disappearance of his best friend George, he digs deeper, and the more he finds, the darker it gets. Based on Mary Elizabeth Braddon's sensation novel from 1862, this adaptation trims the story down, sometimes a little too much. It can't fit all the plot twists, but what it does keep is that sense of lurking danger. This isn't a mystery in the whodidit sense. It's about watching a whole society try to keep its scandals hidden. If you love early detective novels or the dark side of Austen, this is right up your alley. It doesn't match the book's intensity, but it's still a solid, atmospheric look at how Victorian secrets always find a way to the surface. This one starts in 1879 New York. Cedric Errol is just a regular American kid, living in poverty, no idea what's about to happen to him. Suddenly, he gets summoned to England, where he turns out to be the long-lost heir to a huge British fortune. Now, he has to live with his grandfather, who's cold, strict, and honestly not much fun to be around. The old man runs everything with an iron fist, but Cedric's kindness actually starts to change him. The thing that works here is that it feels real, not sugary or fake. Cedric gets thrown into this world of living among the swells, and you see what happens when real kindness and warmth start to crack open years of bitterness. Julian Fellowes wrote this adaptation for the BBC. When it aired, the miniseries ran for about 300 minutes, split into 6 parts, but the DVD cuts it down to 171 minutes. Still, the heart of the story comes through. Most people stick with the 1980 Alec Guinness version, but this one holds up, well acted, well shot, and honest. The novel actually got put on trial for obscenity back in 1857, and you can see why when you watch this adaptation. Frances O'Connor plays Emma Bovary, a woman who wants more than provincial life can give her. Her husband, played by Hugh Bonneville, is loyal but completely clueless, while Greg Wise steps in as her lover. The production filmed on location in Normandy, in the same villages the book describes. They shot in Rouen, which means Emma and Leon have their infamous meeting right inside the actual cathedral, and that carriage ride scene happens on the real streets. Producer Tony Redston went all in on authenticity, making sure the costumes reflect both local fashions and the Paris styles Emma dreams about. Every role gets cast with real care. There's a big ensemble here, but O'Connor brings a lot of humanity to Emma. You see her illusions fall apart piece by piece, right up until everything unravels. Charles Dickens never met a family drama he didn't want to twist inside out. Martin Chuzzlewit puts that on full display. 2 Martins, one old and loaded, one young and stubborn, are at war. The older Martin, played by Paul Scofield, absolutely hates all the grasping relatives who want a slice of his fortune. The younger Martin, Ben Walden, falls in love with Mary Graham, the grandfather's ward, which gets him disowned. In the middle of this circus, you've got Seth Pecksniff, played by Tom Wilkinson, who's one of Dickens's all-time best villains. The cast is stacked. Scofield holds it together, but the supporting actors all bring these Dickensian characters to life. You get blackmail, murder, double crosses, and a parade of eccentrics. This is Dickens adapted for people who actually want to see the wild stuff happen on screen, not just in the book. PBS aired it as a masterpiece theater event, and it's about as close as you get to seeing the whole Mad family spill out on screen. Mike Leigh directs this one, and right away you see it's not some glossy biopic. It's more like sitting in a painter's studio in the 1800s, watching Turner's genius and weirdness up close. Timothy Spall plays Joseph Turner, and the story picks up in the last 25 years of his life. Turner is stubborn, sometimes cruel, driven by grief over his father's death, and almost blind to the devotion of the people around him. His housekeeper loves him, but he ignores her. He finds a connection with a seaside landlady and lives out his days in Chelsea. During all this, he just keeps painting, risking his life in storms, pushing his art in new directions, sometimes getting praise, sometimes facing ridicule. The film looks beautiful, and you get a sense of what it feels like to be right there with Turner. It's set in the late Georgian and early Victorian period, roughly 1826 to 1851, so you're right in the heart of Britain's artistic and social changes. Nicholas Nickleby stands out as one of Dickens's most ambitious stories. The book is massive, and turning it into a movie isn't easy, but this adaptation pulls it off. The story starts with Nicholas's father dying, leaving the family with nothing. They move to London to stay with their uncle Ralph, who quickly shows just how cruel and ruthless he can be. Nicholas is sent away to work at a brutal school run by Wackford Squeers, Jim Broadbent, but he manages to break out and decides to put the family back together himself. This film pushes the timeline into the 1850s, but keeps all the drama and energy of Dickens's original. The cast is strong: Jim Broadbent, Anne Hathaway, Charlie Hunnam, and Christopher Plummer as the multi-layered Uncle Ralph. This adaptation nails the tone: colorful, emotional, and just big. You get everything: comedy, tragedy, family bonds, and Dickens' constant back and forth between hope and cruelty. The result is a movie that actually makes you want to go read the original. That's rare, and it's why this version of Nicholas Nickleby is worth seeing.